Hello and welcome back to TwoSun Tuesday, and today we have a TwoSun Tuesday twofer, as this is the TS327 in both its current configurations. Something interesting about this is that both of these configurations launched at the same time, whereas a lot of the other ones that they've made budget versions of, it's happened well after the fact. But yeah, here we are. So, these guys are designed by a guy who goes by the name of Caleb Fechner. He's done a few other knives for TwoSun in the past. Let's see. I can pull some of these guys out here. Here's the first one here. This is the 67, also known as the Shinobi. Very, very slim, lightweight. Interesting look to a Tonto, almost like a chisel tip sort of thing, rather than a standard American-style Tonto. We can see his little insignia here. This is in their kind of fire anodization thing, which I haven't seen them do much with this type of ano work outside of their titanium pry bar tools for a while, but they have offered it on some before. We have another one here, which I only have the budget variant of. This is the TS114, also known as the RNA. A really strange one, but if I do remember correctly, the titanium one actually looks even weirder than that one. And here we are. This is the one that I kind of wanted to pull out because it does have a little bit of similarities here. This is a TS115. I'm not aware if it has another name or not to it. This one is in green G10, and then we have the carbon fiber laminate over the top of that, and then they've done some milling to it. So there we go. I will put those two out of the way, and I'll keep this one off to the side here. So let's go ahead and now that I'm 2 minutes into the damn thing, open it up and let you actually take a look at the blades here. So there is the blades. They are very speary, droppy, clippy kind of looking things here. One thing I can say is these things are thick boys as far as the blade stock thickness is concerned. However, they are just a tad different, which is interesting. Want to make sure I don't get these wrong in particular. Yes. So the Micarta one here is 3.9 millimeters for the blade stock. And the titanium framelock one is 4 millimeters, so it's a little bit thicker. They're not using the same exact thickness for the blades, which is strange, but, you know, I guess if that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. That being said, they're both really thick overall between the blade stock thickness and behind the edge, because these things are basically a saber grind, so they have a nice flat area up top here, which takes even longer for it to get down there. And that makes it feel a lot like some of the really early TwoSuns. Sure, I'll pull this one out. This is the, what is it, 65? Yeah, it's a 65. And you can see I tried to sharpen this to 15 degrees, and especially up at that tip. Nah, it's just not having any of it. Just looks kind of terrible that way. But yeah, kind of similar to that. So these are not super delicate detail knives. These are much more rough and tumble sort of thing. We have a little hole for deployment there, which will help if you have some smaller fingers. I can get a bit of the meat of my middle finger in there to be able to do the deployment there. But, you know, it's not exactly the easiest thing for me to do. But if you have a little bit smaller fingers, that's probably going to be a little bit easier for you. We do have carbon fiber inlays going on here. And we can see we have basically 2 layers of milling, but you only really see that on the back portions there. And I guess we got a little tiny piece all up in the middle here. Let's see. Of course, the more budget one is going to have their standard folded over deep-ish carry pocket clip. I say deep-ish because, well, it's not mounted to that top barrel spacer. So even though it's a deep carry clip, you're still going to have, I don't know, close to a half-inch kind of sticking out there. But because of that, you generally have about the same amount going on with the titanium milled pocket clip of the framelock guy here. This pocket clip has a decent amount of spring to it. Works really, really well going in and out of the pocket. These ones work well going in and out of the pocket as well, but like I said, they're not quite as deep carry. So you still have a little bit out there to help you grab on when you're pulling them out of the pocket. I appreciate that, but you know, a lot more people really like to be super discreet with their knives. So I can understand both sides of that. So as far as the thickness between these two guys go, let's see. Very, very little difference, but there is a little bit. They're both 0.55 of an inch thick. But this guy here, the Micarta one, is 14 millimeters straight. And this one, the framelock, is 13.7. So just a tiny bit thinner, but theirs makes no difference here. You do not really get lock bar access going on there. We have the scallops going on, and that's not really a problem unless you actually have gloves on, which the way that these are rounded as well as the scallops and without any texturing on those does actually make it a little bit more difficult. But I do appreciate that this is a nested liner here. I do like to see those. And it's always interesting to see them on micarta as well. And these are some thick slabs of micarta. They're not really, really delicate and thin. And this is, whether or not the dye job makes it look like it or not, this is using their newer canvas micarta rather than the stuff that they ended up calling linen micarta that I'm pretty sure was some sort of burlap or something like that. So this was one of the first knives that came out with this newer kind of micarta. Not the first, but one of them for sure. The blade is nice and buried in both of these, so you don't really have to worry about that edge being anywhere close to you. We do not have any lanyard capabilities on these guys at all. And for the people who actually like lanyards, they're probably pretty sad in general, but hey, Caleb Fechner doesn't particularly use them, so a lot of his knives don't have them. That's just kind of the way it is. But yeah, we can see, or at least I do see a bit of sameness in the just the overall kind of blade grind lines and everything going on between these two. They are going to be quite a bit different, obviously, and this one's way, way thicker. We can see, and I've done it on both, quite the smile going on here just from trying to reprofile that. And usually I reprofile an M390 blade to 15 degrees behind the edge. I opted for 16 on this one instead of 15 because this is just really, really thick behind the edge. So I didn't really want it to look like ridiculous, like I might have had a tertiary grind instead of just a secondary one on it or something like that for the edge. The hardened steel insert is pretty difficult to see unless you're actually just trying to take a look for it. Does peek out a little bit, but quite a bit less than a lot of their other frame locks do, so that's a little interesting. And we do have pretty high tolerances going on these blades. They are really, really close to the liners. A little bit less so on the micarta one here, but definitely something you can see here where you really can't see spaces through there just because the blade is so close on both sides, which is neat from a manufacturing standpoint, but you have to watch pivot tension, because if it gets just a little bit too loose, it will probably end up start to rub on one side or the other, and that'll cause a little scuff mark for you. Probably not what you want to end up happening with you. So, kind of my overall conclusion on here is there was quite a price disparity between these two guys here. Let's see, as far as I remember right, I think I got this guy here for 45, 47, somewhere right around there. And the framelock that I got at the same time, I got for like 140. And what I can really say between these two is, if you do like the design, I would probably go with the Micarta variant, because it's almost $100 less, and you get probably about 90 to 95% of the same kind of functionality there. This one is D2 instead of M390. It's not a titanium frame lock or anything like that, but if you are looking for it for general use, I would probably go with the budget version on them. They both have super great action on them, but you are going to end up spending a heck of a lot less on the more budget variant of it. That is to say, if you can find these things. I haven't seen them available for a while. That'll probably change at some point. But yeah, I mean, either way, that's what we got going on here. I really do wish that we had a little bit better grinds going on here. Like I said, both of these are very, very thick behind the edge. So this is not really for a lot of dainty, detailed work. This is much more like a really robust, beaten kind of knife. So, if you are looking for a little bit more of a slicing efficient blade geometry, this does not tick that box at all. But, okay, so I think I've covered a lot of that. I covered the blade stock thickness, and they're a little bit different. Okay, so the blade length on these is 3.43 inches. They are basically identical as far as that length goes. That's exactly 87 millimeters for y'all. And let's go for the weight. Titanium frame lock one is a little bit heavier. It is 4.14 ounces, or 117 grams, whereas the Micarta nested liner version here is 3.79 ounces, or 107.5 grams, so a little bit lighter. Okay, so how about if we do some blade size comparisons? Let's see, I've done Benchmade first for a few of these, so how about if we go Spyderco first here? And there we go with the PM2, which seems to be kind of in a similar ratio to the Endura. Yeah, it's just a big knife overall. Let's go ahead and close that up. Let's see, we got the Dozier Folding Hunter. There's the Ontario Rat number 1, which still a little bit bigger in both directions, but kind of getting close to it. And we got some Benchmades here, namely the Bug Out and the 940. So there, hopefully that gives you some sort of idea on the size and everything of that. Thought the Bug Out was a backlock for a second. That was kind of strange. But okay, that covers basically everything that I wanted to cover with the standard review of that. So, if that's what you stopped by for, appreciate it. If you want to see kind of the inner workings and the guts on these guys, that's what I'm going to do now. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's see, I will go ahead and do the frame lock first. As you can see, the Chicago screw here at the front is actually mounted a little bit differently, because the pocket clip screw is mounted from the inside. So I do have to essentially disassemble this in a different direction than I'm used to with most other knives, but that's okay. I have put Loctite in the pivot here. Come on, yeah. All right. Sometimes I do like to drop them because this is a nice squishy surface. It kind of will help a lot of times with a frame lock pushing off and actually making it easier to disassemble a knife. But only sometimes. So in case you're wondering why sometimes I do that during a disassembly, that is particularly why. So we got a D-shaped pivot. That D-shape is on the frame lock side here. So it's kind of their older style of construction. Somewhere about, I don't know, maybe halfway through 2022, they've changed that up so that the D-shaped notch is actually in the show side rather than this side. And that makes it a lot easier for me to end up actually putting a knife back together because I don't have to worry about where that notch is facing when I'm putting on the last thing. I can just start out with it facing in the correct direction. But let's see. Sure, I'll go ahead and pull out the carbon fiber inlay, and we can see it's fairly thick, and that's definitely for weight relieving. And that also makes it so that they don't have to do a whole lot of machining on the inside for it. But, there we go. Let's try and actually smush this back in place. There we go. Alright, so yeah, we have the standard stop pin here, which ended up falling out. We got their normal ceramic bearings here, and we do not have a detent ramp going on this one in particular here. I still have a decent sheen of oil going on here, so when I'm putting it back together, I'm not really going to worry so much about putting oil back in it, because, well, it's already there. And I'll shove the other Chicago style screw back up through there. Get that pin in there, get the back spacer all up in there. Alright, and then we got ceramics, blade, ceramics. Detent ramp is already there. This screw is kind of already captured because of the pocket clip. It's kind of a strange thing, but it is what was done on this particular knife here. Alright, and I can put top back on here. Welcome to wrist cam in case you've missed it. That feels loose to me. Tis. It means that that notch is not in there correctly. Yeah, it's facing way too far up. So let's go ahead and futz around with that a little bit. I think that's a little bit more appropriate. Nope. Still not quite right. Man, why is it moving so much? It'll probably help if I push the the pivot screw all the way up. And yeah, I can see that to match it up. Match up the backside. That looks correct. Okay, yes, that is indeed much better. Okay, so there's that. Now I might as well actually tighten these things up correctly. I can go either way. Okay, there's my detent strength back. So there we go. As far as this one, sure, we can go ahead and take a look on the inside. Why not? This one, I don't think I need to remove the pockets clip from. Let go. All right, there we go. Yep, there's the nested liner here. Nested liners on both sides. So in case you are worried about just bare micarta on one side or whatever, this is nicely reinforced. So there we go. That's literally the only difference that we got going on here. We have a G10 backspacer here, which I suppose that's kind of standard for TwoSun in general, but I do prefer if I'm going to have micarta scales, might as well have the backspacer made out of micarta as well. I know it's a little bit more difficult to end up doing the machining on it, but I don't know. I just like the cohesive look of it a little bit more. Should actually get that one tightened up, but yeah. All sorts of back together. So that concludes everything that I wanted to say here about the TS327. Like I did say in the somewhere in the middle of it, if you are looking for this knife and you're just kind of up in the air, I would probably go for the much more affordable option because you're getting much of the same functionality. Just not quite as fancy, but in this particular case, a lot of fancy that probably doesn't need to be there. But all right, those are my opinions on it in general. As always, I appreciate y'all for watching, and have yourself a wonderful rest of your day, yo. And don't forget to subscribe.